Hi guys, today we're going to discuss the 80-20 rule. I'm sure you've heard of it before, but do you really believe it? Does it still hold any truth in today's society? Let me know in the comments. So conventional wisdom holds that 80% of women chase 20% of men. This is what the 80-20th rule says. If you can fit in with that group of men, women will approach you and wait for you to ask them out. This was the situation I found myself in when I was a high school student and in the beginning of my 20s. In my classes, women would just sit next to me or offer to help when I was working. It was easy to be one of the 20% of eligible males back then. All you had to do was dress well without looking stupid, exercise, and look great. If you had a car, you were good to go even if you borrowed one from your father. The dating scene has completely changed since I finished my previous long-term relationship 10 years ago, and I was neither as stylish nor as gorgeous as I previously was. In addition to them, women were interested in affluent, stable men. I observed that my ranking on the 80-20th scale had decreased over time. When I made the decision to go my own way, I knew that if I were to pick up bodybuilding and image development again, it would take time away from personal growth and development, which were more important for my long-term plans. A long-term romance was also out of the question, so I had to find another way to spend time. The 80-20 rule is a male struggle for access to two females for reproduction, to put it simply. The main problem with this is that today, the majority of both men and women use birth control, rendering any attempts to pass on your genes absolutely useless. Sure, you get to have a lot of bedroom intimacy, but there are hazards involved, including the possibility of emotional abuse, false allegations, and STDs, which might really harm your life. With this knowledge, you'll be able to take care of your own needs while letting other men deal with the charm of dating modern women. Since you've never been one of them, the majority of you think it's great that you're not within the group of attractive guys. You don't recognize that just because you're attractive, it doesn't mean that girls would automatically approach you and try to get your attention. The least beautiful women are attracted to the most handsome guys for some reason. I've always wondered what that is. They undoubtedly consider it, but because they have nothing to lose, they decide to try. And if you're a man in this elite class, you continuously have to reject unpleasant women. When you believe you have eliminated one of them, three more suddenly appear. They could have a distorted face from tossing them down the stairs as babies, or they might be obese. You still need to approach and work at getting the ladies you genuinely want to date. Whatever the male's social standing, they expect to be dazzled and entertained. When it comes to dating and relationships, the majority of websites and dating gurus agree that you just need to locate 20 people who share your preferences. This is known as the 80-20th rule. The 80-20th principle is another name for the 80-20th rule in some circles. The 80-20th rule, which is based on the Pareto principle, states that on a normal high school or college campus, 20% of males account for around 80% of sensual activity. According to this theory, there are 20 causes and 80 effects for society where 80% of males don't get any action and 20% are the elite ones who get all the attention from females. But the primary problem is that for a civilization to last for a very long time, most of the men must be continuously laid, which leads to a scenario where the men are fighting it out for the attention of and intimacy from women. In actuality, they are no longer in opposition to one another. If a guy marries before civilization, he is assured access to reproduction in a form of sensual communism. We've essentially returned to a pre-civilization mating game because we abandoned the marriage contract and the social compact that went along with it, since only around 20% of males were essentially getting the bulk of the women. The majority of women of reproductive age are quite content to engage in unrestricted intimacy with alpha men, but when they reach a breaking point, they panic and frequently settle for one of the 80% of unattractive men. Many of these males will most likely simply do that to access a woman's royal flower. I read an article on the 80-20th rule, which explains why there are more women than men, at 80% to 20%. It described how some males meet lots of girls on college campuses while others don't. One of its key points of observation was the soft harem, in which high-status men, such as the football captain, keep an official girlfriend in addition to a changing cast of girls who serve him in the bar area, the restroom, or wherever the beer is pouring. A 5 would often date a 5 in the past, but nowadays every woman who is a 6 or above wants the hottest guy on school, and she can essentially have him. It's a little unsettling to think that these women will carry these patterns into their turbulent 20s when they graduate from college and continue to pursue alpha men. They will first produce a large number of resentful and irate men in our society, but eventually these men, the majority of whom are genuine forced loneliness kinds of guys, will accept their position in life and live it on their own terms. But unless we come up with some new technological solutions, it will imply that birth rates will continue to decrease and civilization will ultimately become unstable. After all, most women won't ever choose to organically couple up with a male on their level. To assure the survival of our species before the world as we know it, the majority of women paired with the best males. A wife for every man formerly worked well for us to persuade men to exchange their efforts in the industries and the fields for a platinum female partner. But it loses significance in the service economy. Women's animal spirits run wild in the service sector. Thus, the easiest way to get them to work as instructors or baristas was to dangle the carrot of the alpha male directly in front of them. However, automation will eventually eliminate service occupations as well, forcing society to come up with new solutions. Since the birth of civilization, the social and sensual standards that we have seen have been shaped by the kinds of work that our rulers and industrial capitalists have demanded. I also think that in the near future, no measures will be made to stop 80 women from pursuing 20 males. Women value quality above number when it comes to reproduction, while males do the reverse. We can probably only change our DNA in order to address this, which is a totally different debate altogether. That implies that women will always be favored by the law. Another incredibly intriguing statement from the Reddit article that I already cited reads as follows. The sensual promises of the 1960s sensual revolution appear to have sunk on the shifting bed-play ratios as young men and women engage in awkward, inebriated relationships that are more motivated by a hazy sense of social compliance than by lust. I find myself wondering if the demonization of bed play contributed to the growth of pornography. People, don't you think it's funny that pornography may have become more popular due to a decline in the male-to-female bedtime intimacy ratio? After all, if most males are seen negatively by women, their only option may be to masturbate to an X-rated movie or a porno magazine. Women frequently criticize pornography, but the true cause of this may be their inherent desire to only date the best guys. Like cats, women are. They are free to do as they wish, but if men follow suit, they will essentially face disgrace and be restrained like dogs. Women allowing males being shared by numerous women is the cause of the hookup culture when people engage in sensual activity outside of romantic partnerships. Most top guys want women to be sexy, and most women expect guys to be hot and passionate. In recent decades, males have essentially been driven out of the sensual market. At this time, men are the biggest losers in this new dystopia of the sensual market. Automation and the real forced lonely men are competing for dominance. What should these men do with their lives if technology may replace them and render them obsolete? Although I previously discussed how automation is eliminating employment, most individuals are not motivated primarily by their work. Instead, as long as women may engage in bedroom intimacy with anyone they choose, access to reproduction and intimacy serves as the major driving force behind all of civilization. They will carry on working, paying taxes, and claiming all of the government benefits they can, ultimately bankrupting the system. On the other side, if we develop technologies that render the majority of human work obsolete, what will be the primary motivation that propels people to innovate without the carrot of intimacy? When women don't have their own male provider at home, they must rely on going out and finding their own occupations, since most men tend to become soft and weak, which is exactly the kind of guys that women just don't want. They must have an education, and if they grow extremely intelligent, they are difficult to handle. They also look for highly educated males who are getting harder and harder to find. Giving women the same sensual desires as males, if I had my way and could re-engineer the human species, would be my choice. I would give females the cerebral and emotional capabilities of men, which would give us a more genuine feeling of equality and push women to seek out physical intimacy. And I would also make them less choosy in their partner choices. Women will still seek for male attention though. The issue is that when a robot doesn't nag, few males will interact with women. Currently, the 80-20ths ratio disadvantages men, but this may change in the future. The likelihood of 100% of women seeking out 2% of men is higher than that of 80% of women seeking out 20% of men. Males may be in limited supply because men who prefer to interact with women are likely to be compensated for it. Hope you liked today's discussion. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in.